Hey everyone, my name is Victor. I'm a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I commit them to my sponsor. Weigh and measure without exception, and abstinence is the most important practice and the most important thing in my life today. Um, my abstinence date is April 18th of 2001, and for that, I am truly grateful. Um, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on my what it was like because we kind of have we all know what it was like. I do have one photo, if I can. That is me about 17, maybe 17, 18 years old. That's the only one. I might have another one. There's me again. You could kind of, it's just my face, but you can kind of see it. So, and then there's me and Stephanie. They're kind of, you see the double chin. But anyway, those are a few pictures that I found on my thing. We got a lot more hiding somewhere. But anyway, um, food was my life for a long time. I mean, getting kicked out of an apartment I was with for eating the food, not even knowing that I was eating all the food. I was so shocked when they said that too. I was just like, what are you talking about? I didn't eat any. And because I was oblivious to it, I was so just like right over, and and just knowing that, um, knowing now how just mindless it was, how just that whole getting the food and eating it and finding more was just such a pattern and so just instinct at that point. And I think, and for the most part, it worked. And I think a lot of times the that physical obsession and compulsion to just be obsessed with one thing, it saved my life for a lot of years because it shut off that thing in my head. Because there was a point in my life where it became all about me, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. It's more of it came all about me because I was trying to protect myself. I was you know, trying to figure out how to go through life without, um, having conflict, having, um, getting in trouble, making sure that the people that are, um, trying to figure out what the right answer is when somebody asks you a question, especially a parent. I had a violent father, and when he'd ask you a question, it's just like, well, I know what the answer is. I know what the real answer is, but I don't think he wants to hear that. So I got to figure out what he really wants to hear so I don't get decked, you know? so, uh, you know, so that's how I lived my life. And I think I got sober or clean. I go to Narcotics Anonymous. So we use the term clean because alcohol is a drug. Um, and I got clean when I was 20, um, in 1990. And I met Stephanie in probably a little bit before that, about 88, 89, maybe, probably 89. Um, and when I first met her, she came into the restaurant I was cooking at, and she was with Fellowship with Narcotics Anonymous, and they used to come in and eat after the meetings and stuff. And I said, hey, can I make you something to eat? And she goes, no, I'm doing this thing called Gray Sheet. And this was back in the 90s, so, or late 80s here in Austin. And so she had told me about it, and she had that Gray Sheet glow. She was like, you know, on fire. And so I thought it was a little odd, of course. And, you know, me being a cook and a chef at the time, I was like right there. I was the dealer, you know, but I was definitely getting high off my own supply, you know, which you're not supposed to do. You know, we used to say in the cooking business, never trust a skinny chef, you know. So I was a good chef. Um, and and so eventually her and I started going out, but by the time we started going out, she had relapsed and she was back in the food, and we became like eating buddies. I mean, it was like we were just two things in a pod. Two pieces of paper in a folder. How about that? um, and so, um, you know, for years and years, just trying to find the next right thing. Okay, we'll eat this way. We'll do the fasting. Get a juicer. You know, only eat these. And I love how the big book, it has that little spot in there. Only eating on weekends. You know, we will only eat in restaurants. We will, you know, at home we'll eat this. You know, and only eat healthy food. You know, I became vegan, you know, for in the mid 90s, I think, like early 90s. I was one of the fattest vegans you'd ever seen in your life. You know, I was just huge, you know. so you know, and it was because I was eating grains and starches and sugar, and you know, it set off that phenomena of craving, you know. um, and eventually coming back to, we lived in Oregon for a little while, and then came back to Austin, and um, it got to a point where, you know, it was just like, okay, I'm done. And she got abstinent before me, and it was like, so we just had Gray Sheet food in our house, right? And so I was eating Gray Sheet food, but I wasn't weighing and measuring. And it became a point where it was easier to it was easier to weigh and measure and do it that way and not have the insanity in my head, because I think that's where it's at, you know, that simpleness of no question about it. This is what it is. And not having to guess, is that enough? Is that not too, is that too much? And you know, once I started putting the food on the scale and I was at that place of complete surrender, you know, it, you know, I knew that I had to do something in order to stay abstinent. And that had to do with in immersing myself with the program. Not only just the shopping and chopping, making my life revolve around my abstinence, because I don't, regardless of what's going on, I have to make that the most important action I take on a daily basis. So I have to arrange my life around it. It's, I'm not going to go I'm not going to, go to an event that's like right in the middle of my dinner time. I eat at certain time. Sorry, not going to be there, and no's a complete sentence. So, um, so I had to do that. And then also, I had to immerse myself in the steps. And there's been a few things in abstinence that, that have been really life-changing things for me. And then sometimes, and for the most part, all of them have been for the better. They weren't like something that I was really happy about at the time, but I'm glad we went through them, or I went through them. And like one of the first no matter what's I had was the person that I first had. This was my first sponsor. I asked this guy there. He was the only guy at the meeting, and he said the mantra. So I asked him, to be my sponsor, and he goes, "No, I can't be. I don't have. But go to this person. They'll be your sponsor." And so I went to that person, and the first thing she did was she didn't believe I was a compulsive eater, which was a little odd. So she qualified me, which I think is against the traditions personally. I think the traditions state the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop eating compulsively. And I'm a member when I say I am, and that's it. So, but then I found out that she didn't weigh and measure without exception. And that was, I felt pretty betrayed. I felt betrayed. I felt like I was lied to. Um, and I felt like she should have told me that before I even asked her to sponsor me, because I thought everybody in that meeting was weighing and measuring. And then I come to find out that not everybody was weighing and measuring. Not everybody was doing what we were doing. Um, and so I stuck with the people that said the mantra. I stuck with those people when they started, and I used to hate that right in the beginning. When I first started going, it's like everybody's saying this stupid mantra. It's like, this is no way, man. I was just like, these people are so goofy. And then, I found out why. It's like, okay, I know that person and that person and that person are doing what they say they're doing. They're skinny. They seem like they have a good head on their shoulders. They're not acting out. They're pretty sane. So I started sticking with them. I was sticking with the winners, and got a different sponsor. Started working steps. I think that was the main thing. And I'd worked a lot of steps before I get abstinent in Narcotics Anonymous, and it helped a lot. It helped me get some sense of personal responsibility. Because I didn't have the ability to take personal responsibility because I was in that selfish, self-obsessed frame of mind. And so working the steps, this practical program of action, I was able to get out of myself and be able to see what the causes and conditions were of my what's going on in my head. And then getting abstinent, working the steps in abstinence is such a different experience altogether. It's like so enlightening, it's like from the mountaintop. And I learned way more working the steps in abstinence than I have in working the steps before that. And, you know, I thought I knew what the causes and conditions were of my selfishness and self-centeredness, my spiritual malady, my self-obsession. But it wasn't until I got abstinent and was working the steps that I really got to learn about myself. I think also, I broke my arm in no, yeah, I broke both my arms in abstinence. Stephanie broke both her arms in abstinence. I had to feed her. So I had to put my abstinence first in order to help her. So I would do, weigh and measure my food, make sure everything was taken care of. I had my appendix rupture while I was in abstinence, and I didn't eat over that. I got meningitis. I didn't eat over that. Thank you. And I got a new supervisor at my job that I'd been at for over 18 years or 17 years at that time. And we didn't see eye to eye at all. And she was actively trying to get me dismissed. And I didn't eat over that. I got through it. And eventually I found a different job. And actually now we have a good relationship, which is weird. And it was one of those things, though, for me with that was taking action to do contrary action, to actively be positive and try to strive to have a good relationship and let go of those resentments. Resentments are the number one offender for sure, and even if, I found out through abstinence that resentments are anything that I am holding on to. Anything that I'm holding on to that affects the way I think about certain things, where I try to figure out why it happened, how I could have done it differently. If they say this, then I'm going to say this, and, even those things where, like my dad, he was abusive. And I resented that. And it's like nothing. Yeah, you shouldn't have a father that does that. Shouldn't have a father that's physically violent with you, right? But what my part in is that I'm letting that control my life all the way up to that point. I let that control the way I think and feel because I didn't want to let it go and see my part. My part is that I wanted to hold on to that and just say, look what they did to me. I used to eat at people, boy. And now just to be able to let it go, that doesn't mean that it was right. And it doesn't mean that they were doing the best they can. No, they won't. Sometimes people aren't doing the best they can, because they're in their illness. I can understand that. I can accept that they were in their illness, but it doesn't mean that I have to. I think there's a difference between forgiving and letting go. And I may not want to forgive, but I'm going to let it go. Just like a lot of things. I mean, there's things that I'm not going to pray for someone, I'm not going because, hey, there's just some bad people out there. There are bad people out there, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. And, just like people in the rooms, you know, we're a community here. And sometimes I don't like other people in rooms. I mean, that's just a fact of life. And that's what we are here. You know, we don't have to like everybody. And, but we have to be civil to each other in meetings. You know, we have to be civil to each other in conversations inside and outside the meetings, because that's being responsible. It's being responsible to the community, to be someone who is actively trying to improve. It's for me to be someone, and I should just speak myself when I'm talking, I'm speaking, you know, about me. It's like I need to be as unselfish about the way I think and feel when I'm talking to someone that I have a major disagreement with, than and to try to not let my inner feelings about, you know, things make it out, and to lash out. You know, I don't know if that made any sense. And that's my time. And so I just want to say, you know, to wrap it up, that I'm so grateful for this program. Without this program, I wouldn't have the life I have today, and I wouldn't have been able to seek um, to enlarge my spiritual life outside of Gray Sheet too. You know, to be able to take care of those things that I needed to take care of to get my mind right. And with that, I hope somebody got something out of that. I don't know. Thanks.